One key principle of the GTD Getting Things Done methodology is to maintain a someday maybe list. This is a list to place and store ideas, possible projects, and maybe even next actions that you're not ready to take right now. I'm Dave Edwards. Today, GTD author David Allen has some tips on how to use your someday maybe list. Before we start, please check out my online course, Getting Things Done in a Digital Environment. Perfect if you want a digitally based GTD system. Details at daveedwardsmedia.com. Click on courses. GTD teaches us not to store ideas in our head, but to write them down instead. For me, many of those ideas go to my someday maybe list. They're ideas about things I want to do, things I want to investigate. I'm not ready to do it right now, but I don't want to lose track of that idea. According to David Allen, the real benefit is knowing how to use your someday maybe list, not just letting it be a dumping ground. I asked David about that.
Everything that you say, I'm not committed to move on this right now or decide on this right now, something more specific about it. I just want to capture the idea. And by the way, that could range from your journaling. Journaling is a great way to do a kind of a more in-depth, I say spiritual is with a small s, a spiritually oriented kind of a mind sweep.
Mm-hmm.
Just top of mind, random as occurs to me. Let me just sweep the deck in terms of what's on my mind. And I've done that over the years, off and on, more or less, which is another great way to do that. All that someday, maybe I've never gone back and looked at it in my journal stuff. I've got, pages of them. If I ever do my memoirs, I suppose there might be rich content to go back and look at. But otherwise, it was more a process of allowing myself to keep the creative process going.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, Dave. I had one of the most sophisticated people I know, relatively professionally and intellectually and so forth. Very senior guy in one of the top global, consulting firms. And for him, the second or third or fourth time he was taking a seminar for me, just kind of refresh himself and catch up, he finally got the someday maybe idea. And he said, wow. To him, it was really creative because he would come up with so many cool ideas about things he wanted to do with his, global Fortune 50 clients, and realized that he couldn't do all of them. And he just stopped his creative process because he felt overwhelmed about all the creative ideas he had, but he didn't know what to do with them. Once he caught someday maybe, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to lose creative ideas. Give me a parking lot for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I could then throw all this in there. And what it did was it unlocked or refreshed his creative thinking process. It allowed him to not then stop his creative thinking because he gave him permission to have creative ideas, cool things he might want to do, but not have to commit to move on them.
Yeah.
And that to him opened a logjam for him in terms of his creativity. So that's a pretty sophisticated example, I guess. It's not an analogy, it's a real example of why the someday maybe list could be very cool.
So the real issue is not parking too much in the someday maybe list. It's treating it like all of your other lists, which means you have to go back and revisit them and not let them become like your journals where they just sit in a box someplace.
Sure. And how often you revisit, I revisit my someday maybe, I don't know, for many years, probably, yes, my weekly review, sometimes I glance at it, but for the most part, maybe once a month, I'd really go into detail and look through all those things. Say, are any of those alive and well? Or do I want to activate any of them? About 3 or 4 months ago, as I was trying to clean up, we just bought an apartment, in Amsterdam. So, we're in a cleanup process, kind of let me reevaluate anything I've got anywhere. Do I want to move it? Do I want to keep it over there or whatever? And kind of, I was in that revamp mode. And I just went through my someday maybes and pretty much dumped everything. So that's just been there so long. I'll just start anew. So essentially, I just kind of did a Control Alt Delete, of someday maybe, and said, okay, let me start again.
Yeah.
Because so what? I'm not doing any of them anyway, but let me just wait and now make those fresh things of someday maybe in terms of might want to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of neat. That
Yeah.
kind of a refreshing, kind of clean the old closet, or clean the trunk of your car, or those kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe a someday maybe list is really a place for putting creative ideas, but not spending a whole lot of time worrying about when you're going to get to them.
No, not at all. Now you have to decide yourself, in order to keep those off your mind, how often should you look at them?
Right.
That's my sole criterion. That's the criterion about any of this. Like, what do you need to do to keep these off your mind?
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. So you have the idea, come on. As an interviewer, you must have, and an NPR guy, you must have over the years in your career had all kinds of, wow, this would be a cool thing to do. That'd be a cool project to do. That'd be a cool program to create. That'd be a cool person to interview. I mean, I would imagine that, because NPR was obviously my favorite channel when I was in the States, keeping myself occupied on long commutes in California in my car, so, what did you do with them? There had to be some place that you would keep those kinds of things,
Hmm.
and those ideas, right?
Well, interviewing David Allen was on that bucket list. So there we go.
Yay. Hey, here we are.
Of course, David Allen is the author of GTD, and I share my conversations with him right here on YouTube. Subscribe below so you don't miss any of them. Do you consider yourself productive, but would like to move your productivity system into a digital environment? Hi, I'm Dave Edwards. I can help. I've created a course called Getting Things Done in a Digital Environment. In the course, I take you through each step of GTD and show you how you can use the GTD system in the digital environment that you choose. I demonstrate, I show you my system. It's easy to do once you have someone to guide you through the setup. The course is on demand and online, and it's ready for you right now. Find out more at daveedwardsmedia.com. Click on courses.